Welcome to Musings of Faith. I am Taye Okweguna. Hope you're well. So I have been studying the book of Luke lately, and I'm going to share from the opening chapter of this first verse of this book. So Luke began this chapter by saying to Theophilus that many people have written an account about this already, such as Matthew and Mark. And I'm paraphrasing here. So he said that he also has researched more and decided to write an accurate report so Theophilus can be certain of the truth. When I read it, I thought, well, if it's been written already or done already, why write about it again? After all the other reports were true. But here are a few things the Lord opened my eyes to as I studied. One, he didn't discount the other people's account of the event. He only lent his voice to its credibility. See, Theophilus must have meant a lot to Luke, or must be highly valued for Luke to go out of his way to research and write an account that already exists, but this time with a lot more information. It also means that Luke must be a very credible person. Otherwise, why would Theophilus believe his account? But clearly, I think both of them value each other. That's what I'm trying to say. So sometimes we may need to go out of our way to help others to have a better understanding or an assurance of something because we value them, and particularly because they trust us. And that is a huge responsibility. Now, second thing I learned was that the fact that somebody has already said something or done something doesn't mean that your view or our view doesn't count. Your perspective and insight might be just what somebody else needs. See, I watched a video of an atheist doctor who said he became a Christian because he read the book of Luke. He said he believed Luke's account because doctors by training have to write reports based on research and facts. And here's something that I imagine most of us would have experienced before. Have you ever been in a meeting or a discussion, and at the end of it, the person leading the discussion asks everyone in turn, what are your thoughts about this discussion? Or maybe ask for commenting contributions to the meeting. And then they go around the table asking each person. And by the time it gets to you, it feels like everyone has said pretty much what you would like to say. I know this happens quite a lot because really, we all heard the same thing. And if we all agree that what's being said and discussed is true, then it's highly likely we'll come to the same kind of conclusion. But what may be quite missing is your own unique perspective on the matter, which might be what helps somebody or two or the entire team, for instance, to understand it better. Or even conversely, it might be something that deepens your understanding because now you have, you raise more questions and more answers have to be given. So the truth is that your voice matters, your perspective matters. And maybe the way you say it, it could be your integrity or your credibility or your personality that actually adds more to this. In fact, I know some people will listen and believe just because you said it, or because you recommended it. So I think without Luke's perspective, here are a few things that we'll never know. Number one, we would never have known the name of Zechariah and Elizabeth's parents. Elizabeth as the parents of John the Baptist, nor would we know that his father was a priest or was he from a priestly lineage. Number two, we would never have known that, they didn't have a child, they didn't have John until they were advanced in age, because the angel said, I have come as an answer to your prayers. Number three, we would never have known there was the angel Gabriel that appeared to Zechariah and he appeared to him while he was faithfully doing his priestly duties. Number four, we would never have known that the name John was not given by the parents, but was given by the angel. We would never have known the instruction for his life, not to, drink strong drinks or wine and all those kind of things. We would never have known that John's father was unable to speak until John was born. And we would never have known that a person could be filled with the Holy Spirit before they were born. We will also never have known that Elizabeth and Mary were related, that they were cousins. Why am I taking the time to mention all this? If you go through the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and John, they all talked about John, but John, the grown man, John the Baptist. But Luke took us right to the beginning before John was born. It helped fill in the blanks as it helped us to connect the dots. So which is why he said, at the introduction, I'm going to help you to go through this. So I'm thankful that he wrote this book of the Bible. which is the same truth that Matthew and Mark had written, yet he presented his differently. And this brings to mind something that happened years ago. I was on my local high street at the time on a Saturday morning. I had my little child in the buggy and he was starting to get fussy and he was crying, which I knew was either a solid nappy or he was hungry. Either way, I knew I had to get off the high street to find a place to change him and then feed him. This was a period back in the days where Saturday mornings, the high streets were teeming with people trying to get you to sign up for something. If it wasn't a charity worker, it would be a researcher or something else. Now you couldn't walk a short distance without being stopped or attempted to be stopped or to sign up for something. I think the local council had to put a ban in place at some point, I think, but I digress. So as I pushed my buggy with my squirming child, a lady who I could tell was a charity worker tried to stop me. I tried to decline and push past so I could sort out my crying baby. Just so we're clear, I have nothing against supporting charities. I do. And but at this time, I just wanted to get past. But I felt God say to me, stop and talk to her. I thought, what? With a crying baby? But I did, trusting God will have to sort the baby out for a few minutes because that was my priority. And as to be expected, she told me about the charity she was fundraising for, and she asked me if I'd like to sign up for the charity and so on. She was very, very personable, and I could tell that she cared and was a nice person. So we got talking, and discussion about faith came up, and she said, oh, she used to be a Christian, but she no longer believes in God. And her story was that she lost a cousin who was a good Christian, who always encouraged her, inspired her to be a Christian. She said her cousin had been ill and they prayed and prayed and they believed God for a healing miracle, but sadly her cousin died. Therefore she lost her faith in God and didn't believe in God anymore. That was a lot, and I cannot imagine how that must have been. I honestly didn't know what to say. But then a question rose in me, and I knew that was the help of the Holy Spirit. I asked her the question along the lines of, your cousin was a lovely person. She said, yes. And a Christian who inspired you? She said, yes. She was one of the most inspirational Christians she knew. So I said, the whole point of the Christian faith is to live for God, to love the Lord with all our hearts and all our soul, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. And at the end of our lives here, to spend eternity with God. She said yes. So I said something along the lines of, do you think that what has happened to your cousin, from everything you said to me, I could tell that she loves God. And do you think she's gone back to be with God? And as painful as that is, do you think she's now with God? And she said emphatically, definitely she's with God. So I asked her, do you think if your cousin could look back and tell you something, what do you think she would say? Or how do you think she would feel that you lost your faith on account of her going to be with the Lord? And she said something along the lines of, she knows her cousin wouldn't be happy to know that she lost her faith. Then she said to me in a thoughtful, somewhat sad voice that no one has ever said it to her like that before. Or she's never seen it like that before as well. Long story short, we held hands on the high street, not minding anybody who was up and about. We prayed and she committed her life back to God. And this is the impact of perspective, and definitely the help of the Holy Spirit. Because she said no one has ever said it like that before. And I know that certainly this wasn't my wisdom. She said that her family and friends, they've tried to get her back to faith and she had refused. But right there on the high street, by the leading of the Holy Spirit, her perspective changed by a simple act of obedience and stopping to talk. God will use our voices. He will use our perspective and anything that we surrender to him. And in case you were wondering about the crying child, I looked in the buggy and my baby was fast asleep, and which is a strange thing considering that babies fall asleep when you're moving and wake up sometimes when you stop, but God takes care of everything. So when you're tempted to say nothing because someone has already said this, I don't need to say it, or somebody's already doing this, I don't need to do it, perhaps ask God for insight on the matter and a new way of seeing things. And it might not even be something profoundly different, but perhaps the way you say it, or your gentleness, or your kindness, or your genuine love shines through. Even in the world of business, perhaps you offer similar product or service to other companies, but the way you serve or treat people, could set your business apart. As I conclude, remember this. Some people will only come to Jesus because you share the gospel from your personal experience or from your perspective. Some people will buy a product because you started the business or because you wrote that book. The fact that somebody else has said it or done it shouldn't stop you. If this has blessed you in some way, please share with anyone who you might think needs this. I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. But until then, God bless you.